Hey everyone, jumping right into this explainer today, we're looking at something that honestly completely redefines physical reality and industrial logistics. We're talking about dematerialization. Let's explore how a company called 9005 Wood uses a technology they call the Sentient Bridge to literally transform matter into money. Basically, they're turning scrap wood into data and then flipping that data into cash. Let's dive right in. So, why exactly does a garbage truck need to be running an AI supercomputer? I know, it kind of sounds like the setup to a bad joke, right? But it's actually the literal foundation of a massive operation. The answer is pretty wild. The exact second an edge AI model on that truck classifies the cargo inside the bin, that cargo undergoes a complete state change. It stops being just garbage and transforms into a highly valuable, highly structured data object. And here's the kicker. While you can easily slap a hefty tariff on physical trash crossing a border, you cannot tariff a verified data object. Now, to really grasp the value here, we have to look at the sheer scale of the landscape. Every single year, literally 3.46 million tons of Ontario municipal solid waste is shipped right across the border to Michigan landfills. That makes up about 14.35% of all the waste disposed of in that state. So with shifting USMCA border tariffs looming from Washington, this cross-border pressure acts kind of like the weather, right? It's just an unstoppable external force. And that force is exactly the catalyst that makes turning physical, tariff-vulnerable waste into untariffed digital data an absolute necessity. Okay, so how do they actually do this? Well, everything 905 Wood does comes down to this really simple pile-to-file narrative, and it's driven by two distinct arrows. Arrow 1, the matter. A physical pile of gray construction wood at the bin is converted into data, creating what they call a digital twin of the load. Then, Arrow 2 converts that data into money, which unlocks multiple revenue streams all at once. So they aren't just moving wood. They are running a digital refinery workflow that walks a physical load right across these two operational arrows. You might be wondering, what's the actual engine driving that first arrow? Amazingly, it's a smartphone supercomputer. Today, this whole state change is driven flawlessly by a Google Pixel 10 Pro running Android 16. But the real game changer, what they have mapped out on their next-gen roadmap, is the upgrade to the Pixel 11 Pro running Android 17, alongside a light art AI stack and Gemini 3.6 Pro. This future edge-to-cloud architecture executes the exact same matter-to-data transformation, but it does it faster, significantly cheaper per decision, and with an ironclad cloud-based consensus. Let's talk about how that first arrow actually plays out in the real world. Imagine a truck sitting in a yard, absolutely zero cell signal. In under 500 milliseconds, the smartphone offline classifies whether the wood is clean or treated. Then, using Titan M2 hold-to-seal technology, it physically freezes that real-world state with a 2.0-second haptic lock. Instantly, it binds a GPS location accurate to within a single meter, a timestamp, and a kernel hash. So the physical reality of that wood is locked into a tamper-proof digital record before the driver even turns the key. The pile is officially a file. Unpacking what that file actually is reveals the core asset. The output is this encrypted UI/UX PDF, the digital twin, and it contains three tightly bound sections. First, you've got a request for quote and certificate of origin, classifying the wood under HS 3825.0 as a residual feedstock. Second, a verification section that checks it against strict OREG 347 environmental leachate limits. And third, a compliance section showing the exact machine learning lineage via Vertex ML. This PDF, this digital twin, is the actual asset crossing the border that satisfies the customs agent and the auditor. Think about how wild that is. The digital file is the priority, and the physical wood is literally just tagging along for the ride. This brings us to a really brilliant concept called explainable compliance. See, it's not enough for an AI to just casually say, "Yep, looks clean to me." The system actually auto-rejects dangerous CCA-treated wood right there at the gate by citing the exact regulation back to the regulator. It explicitly lists the hard numbers: arsenic 2.5, lead 5.0, chromium 5.0 milligrams per liter TCLP. It delivers court-ready proof with exact mathematical thresholds. That level of undeniable numeric proof, that's what makes this digital twin so incredibly powerful. All right, so we've got our court-ready data. Now for the magic trick. Arrow 2, data to money. The very second that explainable compliance document is minted, it instantly hits three separate balance sheets at the exact same time. One PDF, three distinct high-value revenue streams unlocked for the operation simultaneously. Let's break down those exact payouts. The first payout is pretty straightforward savings. They call it searchal avoidance. In the waste industry, processing a clean load of wood is vastly cheaper than handling mixed, hazardous garbage. By mathematically proving the load is strictly clean wood, the operator saves $55 a ton. Multiply that across a standard 19.15-ton mothership walking floor trailer, and that single PDF nets an immediate savings of over $1,050 per load. But the second payout is even larger, because this clean wood is securely verified and diverted away from a landfill into a biocarbon application. That digital twin allows the operator to book a CO2 removal certificate, or a CORC. This carbon dividend is estimated at over 2,600 Canadian dollars per load, and because the data is perfectly verifiable, the operator gets to retain that full institutional spot price without a shadow of a doubt. Payout number 3 is all about wiping out real-world logistics risk. Ontario transportation insurance is notoriously expensive, mostly because a single OREG 347 environmental fine can hit anywhere from $25,000 to $100,000. But when you have an audit-proof chain of custody, you explicitly drive down those environmental liability premiums. On top of that, a digital certificate that costs roughly $125 completely bypasses massive 40% USMCA transshipment penalties, all while mitigating standard load dispatch risks. Now, there is a catch here. All of this newly generated money, it evaporates the instant the digital twin is wrong. If the data gets corrupted, the money is poisoned. So to prevent this, 95 Wood maintains a really rigorous risk ledger. The first major risk is AI hallucination. If the AI falsely calls treated wood clean, boom, you get hit with massive enforcement fines. To aggressively guard against this, the system uses a 26 billion parameter mixture of experts constrained to coding paired with that strict TCLP auto-reject function we talked about. This ensures the carbon and savings dividends stay absolutely bankable. The next risk on the ledger is the visual fallacy. Heavily weathered gray pine can easily hide toxic treatments, which, let's be honest, could easily fool the human eye or even a single-edge AI model. If that happens, you end up with a false clean twin, and your insurance premiums just skyrocket. The brilliant guardrail here is a triple model consensus. Any ambiguous middle-tier calls are instantly escalated to a cloud model council, a massive brain trust containing Gemini 3.6 Pro, Claude Opus 4.8, and GPT-OS 120B. That overwhelming consensus guarantees the call is always defensible. And what happens during an audit, say 3 years from now? The risk of model version drift means that an unpinned software update could make it impossible to reproduce exactly why the AI made the call it did, which completely ruins an audit. The ultimate guard against this is the Vertex ML time machine. The metadata permanently pins the exact model version and kernel hash for every single decision. This ensures the digital twin's evidentiary weight is totally reproducible and stays court-ready forever. When you step back and look at the whole shebang, the supercomputers in the trucks, the digital twins, the carbon dividends, the risk ledgers, you realize something pretty profound. 95 Wood is not a garbage company. Under NAICS Code 51, they are officially an information and data company. They are quite literally a tech company that just happens to move wood, expertly turning a physical liability sitting on a truck into a high-purity asset on a ledger. The source material actually summarizes this entire operation perfectly. Quote, by operationalizing the Pixel 11 Pro stack, 905 Wood turned a pile of gray wood into a file the bank, the regulator, and the insurer all recognize. That is the sheer power of the Sentient Bridge. It actively secures Ontario's industrial leadership in the global circular bioeconomy by making the data completely 100% undeniable. Which leaves us with one final, fascinating thought. If an edge AI on a smartphone can look at a pile of scrap wood and dematerialize it into a high-purity financial asset in under half a second, what other physical liabilities out there in the world are just waiting for a sentient bridge? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. We'll see you next time.